I would get nudged by people, hey, why don't you write a book? And, this is, after speaking somewhere, you should write a book. And usually it would be because my understanding of the faith was different from a lot of people's that I had encountered. Someone even suggested a title. Why don't you write a book? Bad Religion. So I was going to write that book early last year. And then I went online, I went to Amazon, and there was a book that was called Bad Religion. I bought it, I read it, and I thought, there's some good stuff in here, but I lost my desire to use that as a title. And then I was sitting at Starbucks over here on Fairview with Brian, who is a part of our congregation. Brian was born in Guam. That's his ethnicity. And he was adopted by white parents and grew up in Arizona. And they're tight. They love each other very dearly. There in Arizona, where he grew up, it was a right-wing Christian community where they didn't find much of a welcome simply because they had a son who was darker than everybody else. And one day they woke up and found a cross burning on the lawn. So they were like this with regard to Christians. And then one day, Brian and I, after he had been coming to our church, I don't know, maybe about a year, we were sitting there having coffee, and he said, never thought I'd be one of those people. What people? He said, the people that go to church all the time? I guess I needed to find a place where God's not an asshole. So that was going to be the title. And that title was my muse. December 2nd is my birthday, and this past December 2nd, my friend Chad Jordan, who used to live here, and he was an associate pastor with me in our church here in town, he texted me on my birthday. And he said, after, happy birthday and all of that kind of thing, he said, I have something for you. Where Ezra the scribe addresses the congregation of Israel in Jerusalem. And it says there they built a platform for him for that occasion. And he said, as I was reading that, I thought of you, and I believe that all of these 6 decades that you have been in the world have been there to provide you now with a platform to talk to the people. And then later that day, I was talking with my friend and colleague Peter Fitch at St. Stephen's University. And out of nowhere, he just says, this morning I was reading Nehemiah 8. What are the odds that 2 people on the planet? Yeah. So he said, I was reading that, and I was reading that part about Ezra the scribe and how there was a platform. And I go, wow. And then he was so excited when I told him about the text message that I received earlier that he emailed another friend and copied me, Brad Jerzak, who's an author as well, and to tell him about this. And Brad said, what time were you talking with David? Because I was reading Nehemiah 8 last night. Anyway, yeah. So I think subconsciously that released me, because I started writing that book on December 3rd, and I finished on December 28th. Do you know how long it took me to write my dissertation? Well, it's a whole different kind of thing. But it was very much stream of consciousness. And of course, I was using stories that happened from childhood and other points in my life. And I was going to write a longer book, but when I got to the last page, I just heard the voice say, that's enough. And I thought, then we'll get their money's worth. The book should be thicker. This is for a walk in the winter snow in New Brunswick, Canada, with my friend Peter Fitch. And he had read my manuscript, and he said, so if there were 2 people that you could get your book into their hands, who would they be? And I said, Brian McLaren and Trevor Noah. Well, Trevor hasn't read it yet that I know of. But But a week later, my friend Peter worked it out, and a week later, Brian was reading my book. And then he emailed me and said, okay, there's this phrase. This is kind of a spoiler alert, but he said, there's this phrase in your book that I think would serve you better as a title. I think Donald Trump is giving you a gift.